ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततन्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भुः मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि योगस्थः कुरु कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा धनञ्जय सिद्ध्यसिद्ध्यो समो भूत्वा समत्वं योग उच्यते. So, two definitions of Karma Yoga, and and they are only elaborated in chapter 3. What has been told about Karma Yoga in two verses here, in verse 47 and 48, has been elaborated in entire chapter 3. That's the elaboration of these two verses. And what are the definitions of Karma Yoga? We have seen as such. When I introduce Karma Yoga, we saw in a gist form the whole what is meant by Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means an attitude behind action, an attitude behind the result of an action. These two things are there. And that particular kind of attitude behind an action, and which can remove a ragadvesha, or which can make me free from the hold of ragadveshas. And that's a one specific kind of attitude behind result of an action. And then attitude behind action itself, that is also for the same purpose. That is also for the purpose of getting rid of the hold of ragadvesha. You're not getting rid of ragadvesha. It is impossible. So this is all impractical thing to talk about. Regarding Karma Yoga, all over the world, basically for the result of an action also, they say something which is not practical. Regarding actions also, where they say this is not practical. And regarding ragadvesha also, sometimes they say like this. We should be free from the hold of the ragadvesha. That's what we should understand. And that's a job done by Karma Yoga. I mean, because of a certain attitude in the mind, the the ragadveshas will not have a say while doing activity or while expecting a result, etc. Anyway, so what makes a karmaphala into a prasada? Basically, in that, the attitude behind the result of an action is the samatvam. Yoga uchyate, we said. Yesterday we saw also. So, recognition in your life that Ishvara is a karmaphala data brings a attitude called samatvam or sameness, and that is what is essential. And that too, then how will you receive the karmaphala? Well, we saw that karmaphala is converting a karmaphala into a result of an action into a prasada is purely a recognition, and that which comes from the Lord. So that is in a Vedic parampara only. Everywhere in our puja we have that this we offer to the Lord and then we receive it as a prasada. So it is basically a understanding behind the result of an action. That's a various situation which we obtain in our life. We call it as a karmaphala, and while receiving it, we have a certain understanding, and through that understanding, we receive the situation. We interact with the situation, and that is nothing but a karma yoga. And that attitude is that it is from the Lord. That's all. It is just from the Lord who is a karma phaladata. And therefore, it definitely, once everything becomes a prasada, these situations, different situations which you obtain in your life, well, what you are going to do in that situation is a free will. But what you receive, even starting from the body, starting from getting various thoughts in the mind, or starting from, or the various external situations which you get in your life, all ultimately is a prasada. So therefore I have nothing to complain, because we never complain. This is a Vedic parampara. We never complain for prasada. If the same thing is there in a dining room, and then definitely if it is given to me, I may have a complaint about it. But if it is given as a prasada in a temple, well, we don't have that kind of a complaint. So then, that attitude is required. So you have only something to learn, and so when the karmaphala comes, you take it as a prasada. And if it is a prasada, then if it is more than what I expected through the action, well, I take it as a prasada. It is less than what I expected, it is still a prasada. And if it is exactly what I expected, well, that is also prasada, or opposite to what I expected, or different from what I expected, is also prasada. This situation, this kind of thing clearly happens when you go to Tirupati, In Tirupati, when you stand for a prasada, this is my experience, I am telling you. So there they serve different rice. It comes from the temple, from the Lord. And sometimes that lemon rice comes, and sometimes that chakkar pongal, or what they call sweet rice. Or then tamarind rice also sometimes. Or now person like me always look for that sweet rice, and I stand in the queue, and whatever comes you have to take. So lemon rice comes, they will serve, they give lemon rice as a prasada to everyone in that particular bowl or something. And so you take, whether you like it or not, you won't complain that you have got a lemon rice. Even though you wanted, of course, this sweet rice, but if this rice comes, then also you accept with a gratitude. So same way, the situation, sometimes you get, what you wanted, more than that you get in a situation as a karma phala. It's like our sweet rice. So when you stand in a queue, of course you had an expectation, but you know that this thing may not be possible. Whatever comes from the temple, they will give. But anyway, so sometimes less than, and that too, if you get that sweet rice or chakkar pongal, so that you get, but you wanted the whole bowl full of that you wanted. But they sometimes, it might have come in a one small container, and there's a big queue for the prasadam. So then they give you a little bit less. So still you won't complain. You wanted more, that's one thing. But as a prasada, well, definitely you won't have any complaint. That is what is required. In a different situation, we don't have a complaint. That complaint has a basis in ragadvesha. our ragadveshas. You actually, we do a particular action not for the sake of action. We do it for the sake of result only, definitely. And therefore, that expectation would be there based on our ragadvesha. But since the attitude of our prasada is there, based on the understanding that Ishvara is a karmaphala data, he is a non-separate from the whole creation, non-separate from the law, and so he shapes the whole result, he shapes all the situation. Then definitely it is coming from him, then we accept it as a prasada. And then definitely if you accept it as a prasada, then definitely you won't give a support to your own ragadveshas, even though expectation would be there. They always say something which is not correct. You do action, but don't expect the result of an action. It is impossible. That's this kind of a thing they talk about. Well, anyway, so expectation will be there based on ragadvesha, but the attitude of prasada is there. And since it is coming from the Lord and you accept it as a prasada, then definitely you don't, even though your expectation is there, you don't insist upon that you have got this much alone and not this, etc., etc. And this is the way you neutralize your ragadveshas, your insistence regarding various situations which you obtain in a life. So, as every karmaphala comes, there is sameness. Now, this is called a sameness in your reception of it. So, that is what Krishna is saying here, that he tells Arjuna that to be the cause of basically, to be a cause of karma, you can choose an action based on free will, but you cannot be the cause of karmaphala, because karmaphala, several other factors other than yourself in terms of your free will or choice of an action, this is your contribution. Other than that, whatever is there is a contribution of me, because I am other than that, everything is me. So other than that, whatever contributes in your in your karmaphala is me alone, and therefore we accept it as a prasada. And since all these factors contribute, definitely I will not be a deciding factor. As I gave you example, when we take some money for contribution for a particular function. Well, you can contribute. You cannot decide that the fund should be like this much alone. You cannot decide, depending upon because there are other people who are going to contribute, and therefore you will be a contributory factor for basically a karmaphala, but you cannot be a deciding factor for a karmaphala. That's what Bhagavan says. So, ma karmaphala hetur bhuhu. You are not a hetu. You are not a cause for the karmaphala. You will be a cause for karma because you have a choice. So Arjuna is a cause of action, but not the cause of its result. And then Bhagavan says, further, akarmani sangaha mastu. Let there be no attachment towards to the inaction. Let there be no inclination towards inaction, because action itself is not a problem. It is your response to the result of an action that's a problem. And so, therefore, definitely our response to the action will be different if I get a opposite result, etc. And if I get a series of results, I fail in so many situations doing same karma, I might develop a tendency of fear that I will be be a failure, etc. And then don't start the action itself. So that's how Bhagavan says, then let there be no inclination toward inaction. So we have to understand this inaction here means a fear of action, not of action as such, but fear that the result you want will not come. So even before you begin, doing an action, you expect to fail, and that the fear of failure will not allow you to act upon. So that's how Bhagavan says, this is the bondage. So this is the bondage, and may you develop the tendency, may you develop the attitude, understanding towards the result of an action that it is coming from me. Take it as a prasada, and then definitely you will have a sameness of the mind. You will not look upon it as a situation of a failure, or situation of a success. Whatever comes is coming from me, and you look my hand into that situation, and definitely, well, then you will not have that kind of a bondage, fear, etc. for different situations as a result of an action. So basically, Bhagavan says to Arjuna that karma itself is not a binding, nor does karma phala binds. It's a response to the karma phala that makes karma seems like a bondage. If this attitude is there, prasad buddhi is there, definitely, well, you will be free from branding any situation as a success, failure, etc. because it is just my prasada. So anytime when we receive prasada, we never consider that success or a failure. Whatever comes, we take it. As per expectation, more than expectation, less than expectation, opposite to expectation, whatever. So this is because you are the contributory factor, but other than you, there are thousands and thousands of factors are there, thousands and thousands of laws are there, which is going to give a shape to your result of an action, and therefore don't consider yourself as a failure, etc. Well, so you be free from this kind of a bondage. So let there be love for the action, but let the results be received by you as a prasad. So this is regarding verse number 47. Now, so this is sameness. Two definitions I have told you. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Sameness towards action means sameness towards the result of an action is karma yoga. So that is one. Now in verse 48, we are going to talk about the other definition of karma yoga, and that is yoga karmasu kaushalam, and that is a certain attitude behind the action itself. Now in verse 47 we have discussed a attitude behind the result of an action or towards the result of an action. Here a attitude towards the action itself, and that is how. So karma means karma yoga has two aspects, karma and yoga, and karma and karma phala both. So towards both we have a certain attitude. Of course, attitude is different here. Towards the action or behind the action, and towards the result of an action, we have a different attitude, and that is samatvam is sameness towards result of an action. Now, yoga karmasu kaushalam. Actually, it is not there in verse 48, but we are pulling it here because this is discussed in verse 50 actually. But we are taking it here, both the definitions. One definition we have seen. So, as I said, the recognition in our life that Ishvara is a karma phaladata brings about an attitude called samatvam, and ragadveshas are the cause for this inclination or the attachment as such. So here in the verse 48, the word sangaha is used. Sangaha means attachment. Asaktihi, that is another word for in Sanskritam, and it is nothing but this ragadvesha are the cause for this kind of a sangha or attachment. So which prompts us to say this should happen in my life or this should not happen. Expectation is one thing, but that brings you a insistence. That makes a person unhappy. That is the bondage. So the ragadvesha becomes a sung with reference to any karma phala that is going to affect you. That only is it, and then only it is ragadvesha. So if we have this attitude of samatvam, ragadveshas will automatically are neutralized. Neutralized means they won't get any kind of support from you because of your attitude. So they are rendered incapable of creating any kind of a reaction from you. And this ragadvesha manifests themselves through various karmas, and in time by attitude of samatva they become neutralized. That is karma yoga. Also, and Bhagavan says yogastha kuru karmani. So staying or abiding in yoga means enjoying this attitude of samatvam, the evenness of the mind with reference to both siddhi siddhyoho, siddhi, success, asiddhi, failure. So the evenness of the mind with reference to both the siddhi or asiddhis, success or failure, is called yoga. It is what makes you a yogi. Now samatvam yoga uchyate is a separate sentence here in this verse. Of course, we discussed in the previous verse That's the definition of yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. There is third definition also. It is in the 6th chapter. But that is not much relevant with the Karma Yoga. What we are discussing, that's not much relevant, and therefore we are not taking it. We are taking only these two definitions, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate and Yoga Karmasu Kaushal. And in this particular verse now we are going to discuss Yoga Karmasu Kaushal. So the second definition, so when Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam means skill in action is called yoga. Now that itself needs a lot of clarification. But anyway, first we'll discuss what are the karmas basically. Especially Vedic karmas, and the scriptures have enjoined certain karmas. And first we'll discuss that, and then we will see what is the skill in action. So Vedic karmas or scripturally enjoined karmas are made up of many rituals. This ritual, of course, but so why Swamiji you are discussing, nobody does that, at least, but better let's know. And in that a particular aspect called Nitya Naimitik karma, particular type of karmas, well, that's what we are interested in. And as such also we should understand these various types of karmas enjoined by the Veda. And ultimately all karmas can be taken in a karma yoga with a certain attitude, that we'll see. So first let us discuss this. So these rituals can be divided into 4 categories. So first is a kamya karma. You have heard all this, kamya karmas, and then the nitya naimittik karmas, and the third is our prayashchita karma, and nitya karma, naimittik karma. So we'll separate it, so it becomes 4. So kamya karmas means they are meant for producing a desired result. You have certain kamna, desire, and so in order to fulfill that desire, you undertake a certain activity of, you do a certain action, and which will give you that desired result. So that's called kamya karma. Then nitya karma means a daily ritual. Naimittik karma means occasional ritual. Nimitta means occasion. So naimittik karma means occasional rituals. And prayashchita karma means rituals to correct any wrong thing we have done in a given karma. So to correct it, we do some prayashchita karma. Anyway, so first is this kamya karma. So there is a ritual, called putra kameshti for those who want a children. Putra kameshti you can understand. Ishti means yajna. Putra kama means if you have a desire of a child, and then you do that ishti or yaga, that's called putra kameshti. And in the history, the Dasharatha, of course, Rama's father, had no children, and being a king, because he had to have a children, he was a king, so that there would be someone to rule the kingdom after his death, and so he wanted children, and therefore he was advised by the sages to perform this ritual called putra kameshti, and he did it, and he had 4 children. Putra kameshti was done in a recent past also, when Paramacharya was there in Kanchi Acharya. At that time, one landlord, of course all this I came to know through Puja Swamiji only. So he was one landlord in Tamil Nadu. He was having a lot of land and a lot of money, but no child. And so he went to Acharya, and then Paramacharya said, well, you are a very wealthy person and you can afford this particular yaga, because this is a very expensive yaga. A lot of materials are involved, and it's a very elaborate ritual. And so, you can do it because you are a landlord. Then why don't you do that? And he did it, and he also had, children. Not one, more children are there. So this is of recent past. Anyway, so any ritual, I feel any religion will work if the person performing it with a shraddha, faith. So anyway, so putra kameshti, yajna is a kamya karma. Having a kamana, having a desire of a child. And there are many other karmas, jyotishtomena swarga kama yajeta. Instead of putra kama, that person is a swarga kama. Well, then jyotishtoma, etc. One who wants to go to, one who wants to have a experience of heaven. Well, he can do this particular yaga. So all these are basically kamya karmas. And then Nitya Karmas and Naimittik Karmas. So first is, let's say the Nitya Karma, we'll see. Nitya Karma means a ritual or a prayer that is to be done every day. Now which ritual or prayer are to be done depends on the person's status, in which ashrama he is. Depending upon that, he will have a Nitya Karma. And so an unmarried person like a brahmachari, etc., has a twofold Nitya Karmas. The karmas which are to be done daily, well, there are two karmas which he has to do. And the first one is a prayer called Sandhya Vandanam. It is not a ritual as such, it's a prayer enjoined by the Veda to be done 3 times a day, actually. At sunrise, at noon, and at the sunset. Before sunsets, actually. It should be done that way. And sunrise means not at the time of sunrise, before the sunrises and before the sunsets. That's how we have to see. Before the sun rises, he has to complete this Sandhya Vandanam. Well, and at noon, that's called Madhyana Sandhya, but anyway, Sandhya Vandanam nobody does, except in some Gurukulams I see. They make compulsory for the brahmacharis to get up in the morning and take bath, etc., all this, and then first to do Sandhya Vandanam. Very essential, because it's a prayer, it's a prayer to Lord Sun, and that's Gayatri Mantra, of course, and so that's for the brilliance of the mind. And brahmacharis are supposed to have a brilliance, definitely, and because they are undertaking a study, etc., and so it's very good. So and there is another one Nitya Karma they have as in Brahmacharya Avastha or Brahmacharya Ashrama, and that is Samhita Dana, in which one samit, a piece of wood, has to be offered in the fire with a certain mantras, etc. And that the prayer is that may I become brilliant, may I learn, may I be a person who has total control over myself, etc., etc., because it is very much essential in this Brahmacharya Avastha. And therefore that kind of a prayer also is there in this Samhita Dana. Samhita Adana. Adana means offering. And Samhita means that a piece of wood, particular, made up of, it is not made up of, it is from a particular tree. There are various types of Samhits are there. In different yagas, different types of Samhits are used. Anyway, this is for Brahmachari, these two Nitya Karmas are there. One is Sandhya Vandanam, other is Samhita Dana. Now for a married person, Grihastha Ashrama, we call householder as such. Puja Swamiji doesn't like this word, but anyway. Gruhe Tishtati iti Grihastha, actually. Gruhe Tishtati iti Grihastha. Stha means Tishtati. Kutastha, Kute Tishtati iti Kutastha. Tate Tishtati Tatastha. Gruhe Tishtati Grihastha. Means one who stays at home is called Grihastha, actually. Means one who stays at home means what? Actually, the house, environment of the house is such that he doesn't feel like to go out. That's what it means. So there is a homely atmosphere. That's how say people in English also. I think that's an expression. So to bring the person to the home, etc., etc. So Gruha means a home. So he stays at home means the environment in the home is such that he remains in the home. He doesn't feel like to go out. Such kind of a very healthy environment, a very, very harmonious environment, etc. Anyway, so householder, let us say. So Grihastha, so his Nitya Karma differ. So Sandhya Vandanam continues, which was there in the Brahmacharya Ashrama, that continues. Whereas Samhita Danam, of course, is replaced by Agnihotra Karma. That's another fire ritual. That was a fire ritual, very small. In Brahmacharya Avastha, it was a very small fire ritual, but this is little elaborate, Agnihotra. And it is a Nitya Karma for a Grihastha. And this karma, Agnihotra Karma, has to be performed twice a day. And and morning and evening, of course. And here Agnihotra is definitely a fire ritual. So on the day of marriage, in the presence of a fire, they take a vow, etc., or in a marriage. So that particular fire itself, which is lit at that time, is not allowed to die. And then it was taken to the home, along with after the marriage. And then from next day onwards, this person starts doing Agnihotra Karma with taking that, from that fire he takes a for the ritual, and there is a lot of many things are involved. So he takes that fire daily from that. And this goes on, this Agnihotra morning evening goes on until the person takes sannyasa. And then he gives up this Agnihotra karma. Or person doesn't take sannyasa, but that grihastha dies. Then what happens is, with the same Agni, he was his pyre was lit. I mean, it is lit with that pyre, and therefore, because its understanding is that if you offer your body to the fire, that's the last samskara, Agni samskara. So if you offer your body, till today he was doing Agnihotra, he was offering something in the fire. Now the day has come in which he offers himself to the fire. And why he is doing that? It's a big offering. Yeah, it's a big offering. So that the Agni Devata will give him a very good janma. Agni stands for a form, basically. So he gets a better form, better sharira. And so he gets a better janma in the next life. So we have that last samskara also, in which the person, the whole of the life, he has lived a life of offering, but in the end he offers himself, and so the Agni will definitely takes care in the next life. He will get a better form, better sharira. So this is a principle behind that samskara. Anyway, so on the day of the marriage, where the fire was lit, that fire, from that fire he was taking daily, taking it out and doing a yaga, etc., called Agnihotra. And if he takes sannyasa, then definitely it extinguishes, because wife cannot do all this. This is all done by the man only. So if he takes sannyasa, then of course there will not be Agnihotra karma in that house. Or the person dies, from the same fire it has been lit, and that fire will be allowed to die then. And so a life of grihastha is a dedicated, very religious life, because he is doing this morning, evening, this kind of thing. That Sandhya Vandanam also is there, that 2-3 times. Maybe, but even if you don't consider the noon Sandhya Vandanam, that's called Madhyana. Still, morning, evening Sandhya Vandanam, morning, evening Agnihotra, etc. So it's a very, very dedicated, religious life in which there is offering, and the person can do anything in between, but these Nitya Karmas have to be performed every day without fail. Now, the third stage, Vanaprastha. So when a married person withdraws, from the duties of this Grihastha and enters the next stage of the life called Vanaprastha, ashrama, then a few more karmas are added actually. What he was doing as a Grihastha, in that itself few more karmas are added. So he was doing Sandhya Vandanam, it will continue in that ashrama also, in Vanaprastha. And he was doing Agnihotra, it will continue. And some more karmas are added, especially certain meditations, upasana, Ishwarup, Dhyanam is involved in that. So there are certain meditations are involved in this, and there is no way of escaping, these karmas except by sannyasa or by death. So even in Vanaprastha, he has to do that Sandhya Vandanam, he has to do Agnihotra twice a day, both. And also certain meditations are enjoined, which is a Nitya Karma for the Vanaprastha. And in sannyasa, this vow or commitment, we call it generally Diksha, taken earlier to perform this, Sandhya Vandanam, and at the Upanayan time itself, the Diksha is given. Yeah, at the Upanayan time, your teacher will give a Diksha, Gayatri Diksha. And then, so he gives a Gayatri Diksha, means he will, in his ear, he will chant that mantra and will make him repeat several times, so that there will not be a mistake when he does every day Sandhya Vandanam. So that Gayatri mantra, it was told, now chant it. And then correction also was done at that time, at the time of Upanayana. And then once he get that Diksha from the teacher, Acharya, whoever may be, and then he has to continue that throughout, till even in the Vanaprastha ashrama also. Daily Sandhya Vandanam should be done. And Samaji, if suppose a person cannot do, if he is ill and he is sick and or he is bedridden, what should be done? Then there are ways. There are ways of doing Sandhya Vandanam even while lying down also. But anyway, we will not talk right now that, because these kind of things, this kind of things will appear in your mind. Suppose if I cannot do, then it starts with that. Anyway, so in sannyasa, the vow or commitment, the diksha, etc., taken earlier to perform this nitya karma is given up. In this, in the both all the three ashrama, they have that tuft. Brahmachari also should have a tuft, and then Grihastha also has a tuft, and that our Vanaprastha also a tuft. Only at the time of sannyasa that the guru who is going to give him sannyasa, he will cut his tuft. Means you are free from all karmas now. Tuft goes along with the karma. So you might be seeing all the brahmacharis. Some of the grihasthas also will keep. Now, because people are, who are ashamed, etc., they may not keep. But generally, you will find, especially if you go to southern India, when you go to India and if you go to the southern part of India, you will find there are people who keep, or grihasthas, they keep that. And even if they are in the Vanaprastha also, they will keep. Brahmachari also will keep. So, they make their son to keep this. That stands for karma, that particular tuft, and both. This Janoi, that Upanayanam and tuft indicates karma. He is doing nitya karma. That stands for that. They are the indicators. And both are taken up by this sannyasa guru. Upanayanam also has to be put into the river, and that tuft also he cuts it, etc. And of course clothes also given up of the previous ashrama, etc. in standing in the river. Anyway, so this rituals or this nitya karma is given up, and then person is no longer bound to do these karmas. At the time of sannyasa, he has to give up. So one's hairs and then various other things, of the earlier initiation are given up, including even Gayatri Mantra. Yeah, because that Gayatri Mantra was in that Sandhya Vandanam. Sandhya Vandanam Nitya Karma is given up, means Gayatri Mantra is given up. But then this Gayatri Mantra is in another form. To a sannyasi, it is given. And then Gayatri has the three padas. And so the three padas of the Gayatri collapses into three matras of the Omkara. And therefore Omkara Upadesha has been given to sannyasi by a person who gives him, by a teacher who gives him a sannyas diksha. And so still Gayatri continues. But now the Gayatri, because Gayatri is the essence of the, Gayatri Mantra is the essence of the Veda. Then later when it collapses into Omkara, we say Omkara is the essence of the entire three Vedas. Anyway, so the only Omkara remains for a sannyasi, and that Omkara Upasana, Pranav Upasana they call. And there are some other few essentials are there which I am not supposed to declare anyway. But it's nothing to be, don't think too much about that, Swamiji is trying to show, he's not that. But this is all Vaidika, and therefore certain things has to be kept in that way only. But anyway, so there are a few other things also there which a sannyasi also is supposed to do. What I want to convey is, sannyasi is not free from nitya karmas, but they are of a different nature. Now the Sandhya Vandanam, Gayatri, etc. is not there, but then Omkara Upasana is there, or Omkara Japa is there, Pranava Japa is there. So, and then the time of, sannyasa also, they say that he is no longer interested in gaining heaven and having children and money and all that. And he also says that no one should be afraid of him. Thereafter, after taking these vows by the teacher takes a vows from that person to whom he is giving a sannyas diksha. So this is called a vow of a abhayam, abhayavrata. So he takes a vow from the person that from now onwards you will not be a source of fear for anybody. Means you won't compete. Sannyasis are one who doesn't compete. That's another criteria that any sannyasis also compete with each other, etc. But generally, this is, and that once you compete, you become a source of fear for the person, definitely. And therefore, no one should be afraid of him thereafter such a kind of a vow is taken. I mean, the vow as such, at the time of Upanayana in Brahmacharya Avastha has been taken by the teacher, and then Gayatri Upadesha has been given. Same way in Sannyasa also, a teacher gives a Omkara Upadesha. And 1 minute, somebody is come. So basically, this is how. So this is the initiation. There is an initiation at every step, even in the Brahmacharya ashrama, and then continue to all the three, continue certain karmas, in all the three ashramas. Now in sannyasa, there are different types of things are there. And that also there are certain vows involved. And then Upadesha also is there. Instead of a Gayatri Upadesha, Omkar Upadesha is there. So I am just trying to compare, and very serious commitment. Sannyasi has a very serious commitment. And that commitment of, that you should not become a source of fear, it's a very big thing. Very big thing in a competitive society. Living in the society, you should not compete to anybody. It's a very, very big thing. You will also be otherwise in a rut to compete with the people. At least to compete with your people of your own category or own field. But this is a very big vow which a guru takes from the person to whom he gives a sannyas diksha. Anyway, but until sannyasa, he must definitely perform these nitya karmas, as I discussed. And all these are Vedic karmas enjoined by the Veda. And performing these nitya karmas, of course, if you remember, we have discussed another kind of a nitya karmas, which I have told you, because those Panchamahayagnas, which I have already talked to you before I started verse 47, I have given you a brief introduction of the Karma Yoga, and in there I have given you this Panchamahayagnas. And we have discussed Panchamahayagnas at a length before few sessions. And those are the things, it has no bar of this, whether a person is a male or female, or have a Upanayana or not, or have a tuft or not. This Panchamahayagnas are also a nitya karma. As I told you, it has to be done on a daily basis, and that is also Vedic karma. But it can be done by a person. So this is, but this is a Vedic karma as such. We are discussing involved in all the four ashramas. And performing this nitya karma, you do gain results in form of punya or antakarana shuddhi. Now this is where I am contradicting myself. Honestly speaking, I am contradicting at this point, because the Purva Mimamsaka and Vedantins have this an opposite view. Well, the karmas, nitya naimittik karmas, naimittik karma I have not discussed, but you can include in that. Nitya naimittik karmas, do they produce any kind of a karma phala or not? And especially punya, definitely, because these are the karmas enjoined by the Veda, and if you do, you should get punya. Anything is told by the Veda that you do and you do it, generates punya. That's what we believe. Well, Purva Mimamsaka says no. These are the karmas which you are supposed to do, and you are doing. So you should not ask for any benefit. And definitely, but if you don't do that, it will generate some kind of a papam we call pratyavaya. And they give lots of examples are there in a laukik karmas. Well, we have lots of examples for that. Like you are supposed to pay a tax every year. You are supposed to pay. If you don't pay, then still you get a fine. So I am not doing anything. I am not paying even tax. Then how can you fine me? How can a particular unexpected or undesired result can come? If I do something, I should get either desired or undesired result. I am not doing. I am not even paying you tax. Why are you fining me? You cannot ask. You are supposed to pay and you don't pay. Then you definitely get undesired result. And therefore, Purva Mimamsakas are very strong. And like other Nitya Karmas are there, which you are supposed to do on a daily basis. I have given you example. You are supposed to clean your house. You don't clean, what will happen? You are supposed to clean your body daily, right? Nitya karma. If you don't clean, what happens? You are supposed to clean your teeth. If you don't clean, what happens to your teeth? And what happens to you as a person, you know very well. And what happens to surrounding you also you can know. And therefore, basically certain nitya karmas are there, which are enjoined, even in the daily parlance. If you are, and they are the karmas you are supposed to do. If you don't do, means it should not produce any result. Don't say that. It will produce. It will produce. If you don't do, in fact, it will produce. If you do the daily cleaning, etc., well, then there will be shuddhi. There will be purity in terms of your body or a teeth or even a house, anything. So that is a very, very big argument. Vedantin says no. Because if any karma, if you don't do, it will not produce anything. Well, this is a very grey area, frankly speaking. But I am just presenting the view. We are least concerned. Whether it will produce punyam, or it will, if you do it, if you do nitya naimittik karmas, it will produce punyam. That's also fine. If you do nitya naimittik karma, and therefore pratyavaya will not be generated. A papam generated through the omission of not doing, which you are supposed to do. Well, if you take that view also, it is all right for us. It doesn't make much difference. So anyway, what ultimately it amounts to, I would put you the conclusion. What nitya naimittik karmas, whether it generates punyam or whether it will keep away the pratyavaya, papam, etc., whatever it may be, ultimately these karmas help you directly in antakaran shuddhi, either through generation of punyam or either keeping pratyavaya, etc., away from your spiritual path. Whatever it may be, well, you will have antakaran shuddhi through this nitya naimittik karma. That is what I want to convey. So, the main point here is that they are to be done. The Vedantis argue, Vedantis go one step further all the time. So he says, well, if you don't do and still it can generate pratyavaya, then if you do, then also if not, by not doing something can generate something, then by doing something, well, still karma phala cannot be generated. That's how they say. Anyway, that argument does not look much, it doesn't convince me much. Anyway, but because Acharyas also, Vedantic Acharyas also have either, have gone on both the sides. And because ultimately all this is within mithya structure, and therefore we are not bothered too much. So it's okay. Even if you accept akarane pratyavaya, they call Purvamimamsaka, akarane. But if you don't do, it generates pratyavaya. And some our acharyas also, they also use this, akarane pratyavaya. Some acharya says, no, think twice before you say that. So anyway, okay, so for them, for those acharyas, they say nitya naimittik karmas, definitely good karmas enjoined by the Veda, and therefore generates punyam, and that punyam will be utilized for your spiritual path. Why? Swami, how are you deciding factor in which punya will be used where? How can you decide? Well, I am not deciding, because since those karmas are not based on a kama, well, certain actions are enjoined by the Veda, and you perform that action. You have a kama and you perform, like putra kameshti I told you, enjoined by the Veda, and you have a desire of a child, and you do. So it will generate punya, which will result into giving you a child. Or svarga kama, etc. You have a desire for a heaven, enjoined by the Veda is a jyotishtoma, and you do. And then definitely you get a result. It generates a punyam and adrishtam, and which will translate into giving you a svarga after the death. And therefore the adrishta must be there, because jyotishtoma yaga is over within 2 days or whatever. And svarga you are going to get in next life, right? Right now this prarabdha is going on. Then what connects? The karma and the final karma phala. What connects? So we say it generates punyam or adrishtam, which will translate after the death into a svarga prapti for you. It will give you a svarga prapti. So there must be adrishta. That is correct. So if you don't do kamya karma, right? And you do this kind of karma, Sandhya Vandanam, etc., which we talk Agnihotra or whatever. All these karmas you do. You don't have a kamana, right? These are the karmas where you don't have any kama. And they are karmas enjoined by the Veda, yeah. And then it will generate punya, yeah, generate punya. Now this punya will translate where? This punya will translate where? You don't have any kamana. Otherwise it will give you a desired object. But if you don't have a kamana, this punya will be utilized for what? Definitely it will utilize for your journey, spiritual journey, with whatever the obstructions are there in between. Those obstructions will come and go without affecting you. I mean, it will not hamper your spiritual growth. That is how we logically understand that. And of course, in Brahma Sutra it has been discussed. I am talking from the base of a Brahma Sutra actually. On the 4th chapter, all this is discussed, where the punya goes, etc. And for the Jnani's punya, what happens to Jnani's punya, etc. Then all the account has been settled there. This Jnani's Nitya Naimittik karma he has done in the Ajnana Avastha. Well, those karmas have generated punya, and those punyas have been utilized for his spiritual journey, and that's how he has got this moksha also. So this is how it has been told. Anyway, so what I have clarified from my angle, because I may be contradicting here otherwise. Anyway, so this Nitya karmas we have talked. Then Naimittik karmas are also there. Naimittik karmas you can understand very well based on certain occasion you do. So these are certain rituals, well, at a particular time, on a particular day, like, on the anniversary of a death of one's mother or a father. Such ritual we do, and that is called Shraddha, which must be performed actually monthly on the Amavasya, and more elaborate ritual on a death anniversary day. And so this is a Naimittik karma, because that's an occasion. Because you have to do on a particular day itself. I mean on a Amavasya, etc. Or on a day of a death anniversary. So this too also is done. Naimittik karmas also is done until sannyasa. So then once the sannyasa is taken, then all the shraddha towards father, mother, all are given up. And because that day you have to do all the shraddhas, you have to call all your generations, all the grandfathers and grandmothers and whoever have gone now, you call them and offer this shraddham, etc. And then lastly your shraddham also is done. It's a very elaborate ritual before sannyasa, in which you your shraddha you do, because afterwards nobody is going to do. And therefore, so this all is a Vedic thing. Sannyasa is a Vedic thing, and therefore this serious question will arise. We don't bother too much about. But then, if it is the sannyasa ashrama is a Vedika, then what happens to Shraddham? This person, of course, has given up all relationship, and then who will do Shraddham for that person? Then if you give answer, no, that will be okay, we should not bother. That's not Vedika. If you are in a Vedic circle, you have to answer properly what will happen to this Shraddham, etc. And that is done at the day of sannyasa itself. The Shraddham of one's own self also is done. And Shraddham of all other Pitrus also are been done that day. And therefore he will be free afterwards, free from doing this Naimittik karma also. And Shraddha is not done daily. It is only done if one's father or mother has passed away. And therefore it's a nimitta. Therefore it's called Naimittik karma, because such occasion is there. And Naimittik karmas are generally performed by Grihastha, generally. But let me tell you, this Shraddha karma is something which should be performed by even a brahmachari or a Grihastha or a vanaprastha. So even if he is a brahmachari, suppose his mother or father has passed away, then he is supposed to do Shraddham, Tarpanam, etc. And he should continue also. And then of course Vanaprastha also. He cannot tell, I have now, as a Grihastha it is okay. Now I have come to Vanam, forest, and therefore I will not do. No. He is supposed to do. He has to remember that now Amavasya is coming, and so I have to do Shraddha, Tarpana, etc. So he has to remember. So Naimittik, but other Naimittik karmas are performed by the Grihasthas, including certain rituals are done on the day of, the beginning of Uttarayanam, etc., northern solstice, or beginning of a southern solstice, etc. So on the Dakshinayanam particular day, or on a Uttarayanam, that particular day when it begins, you have to do a certain karmas which are called naimittik karma, because that's an occasion. That particular day comes, then only you will have to do. And then other than that, especially eclipse, then Surya Grahanam and Chandra Grahanam, eclipse, solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. And on that day also, they are also recognized, and based on ancient method of calculation. And on that day also, you are supposed to do Shraddha Tarpana, etc. Suppose someone's mother, etc., has passed away or something, then on that particular day also, solar eclipse day or lunar eclipse day, he is supposed to do. Other than this, even Amavasya also. Anyway, so but it's very amazing. The people who say this all is an imagination, for them it's a big slap. How will they know that solar eclipse and everything in those days? It's a phenomena. Now we know, of course, science proves it. But without any kind of scientific tools, how Veda has known all this? That there will be a solar eclipse and lunar eclipse, and so many things are there. That itself proves that what has been told in the Veda is correct. Otherwise, if solar eclipse would not have been there, and if they talk about, then we say this all is an imagination. But what they say, without science, etc., they have talked about everything in those days. So it's amazing how. So if people say the Shastra is false, they will have to wait up to the eclipse. Then they will have to change the opinion. Anyway, but Shraddhaya yat kriyate tat shraddham. Most of the people do not have Shraddha. That's all. I don't care. They say, I don't care. That's how many people in India, now many, especially parents, when they now feel that we will live for few more years or something, they do their Shraddha, they call the Puro, that, the priest, etc., and do the Shraddham, Tarpana, everything they do. Because they know these fellows, their son, daughter, etc., they are not going to do anything. So Jivat Kriya, they call it, Jivat Kriya. While you are living, like, we have Jivan Mukti, so this is Jivat Kriya. Kriya means this kind of these actions, Naimittik Karma, Shraddha, etc. Jivat, while living. So while living, you do all this Kriya. Must be allowed, I don't know. Like a sannyasi, while he living, of course he is doing. Because that old person has gone now, that's how they do, but I don't know how about other people. Anyway, this is just for your information. And finally, Prayashchit karmas are there. Well, so in any action you do, it may be Vedika or a Laukika, there are going to be some faults will be there, definitely. It may be puja, it may be all punya karmas. Puja, or it may be a ritual, yaga, or anything. There will be some fault in terms of a pronunciation, in terms of some kind of upachara. Two levels of mistake. At two levels the mistake can occur. One is at upachara. Upachara means uchchara. Uchchara means in the pronunciation of mantras, etc. There will be some, because generally priest, first chants mantra and tell the Yajmana that you repeat. When Yajmana does not listen properly, and instead of one, and doesn't have a knowledge of Sanskritam, so instead of one word they utter some other word. It all the time happens. Anyway, so and even in upachara also, in performance itself, there will be so many faults in terms of even material which has been offered in the yaga. People sometimes they don't clean properly, etc., and they just offer. There may be some insects also inside, especially those dry nuts, etc., and other things also. So all the ahuti dravyas should have been a Samskrita. I mean, they have been purified, and afterwards they should be offered, because that's the Agni Devata in which you have called your Ishta Devata, and then you are offering. So anyway, so therefore a Prayashchita is always required. So after every puja we have Prayashchita karma. We have Prayashchit karma. Anyatha sharanam nasti tvameva sharanam mama tasmat karunya bhavena raksha raksha parameshwara, etc., etc. And प्रायश्चित्तानि शेषाणि तपः कर्मात्मकानि वै यानि तेषाम शेषाणां श्रीकृष्णानुस्मरणं परं श्रीकृष्ण श्रीकृष्ण श्रीकृष्ण. So we beg pardon for what we did in the. So in a punya karma itself we have this kind of a thing, and therefore there is a provision in the shastra for a prayashchit to correct what has gone wrong, and they are also performed. And in Veda there is of course the biggest prayashchit I have already talked to you is a Rudrabhishekam and or Rudrayaga, either way. I mean keeping the Ishta Devata as a Rudra, Shiva. You do either a puja, that's called Rudrabhishekam, or a yaga, etc. And you do a ritual invoking Rudra Devata and you offer. And all this is a based prayashchita has been described as a Rudra Puja. But a particular, but in Shastra there are other karmas also has been told. So a particular karma can neutralize the results of a wrong action, be it a omission or a commission. So during performance we have omitted something or we have committed something and which may be wrong. An example of prayashchit karma in the Veda is a Chandrayana, wherein you regulate the amount of food you eat for 1 month. So beginning on the full moon day, you take the amount of food that you would ordinarily eat. Full. And the next day you cut it down, that food, by 1/15. And on the second day, and then by another 1/15 on the third day, another 1/15 you cut on the fourth day, like that. And then until new moon day you do that. On new moon day, well, you don't eat anything. And then again you begin again on the first day after the new moon. So on the Prathama you take 1/15 of the food which you are on a normal course you take. Then you increase another 1/15. Then you increase another 1/15. So adding increments of 1/15th portion each day until the full moon day comes, when again you eat as you are eating regularly. So and that's all, Swamiji. No. During that entire period of 1 month, well, certain rituals are performed daily, and that is called a prayashchit karma. And people lose weight. One of our brahmachari in our course, in the Anekati course, in the third course, well, he did that, and he lost, I think, 8 kgs or something, 8 to 10 kgs in a 1 month. So he did not go to any weight loss program or something. You can do the prayashchit karma also. If you have that attitude of losing the weight, it is not going to be prayashchita. So definitely, your attitude should be that I want to do a prayashchita, etc. I am not saying you, I am not advocating you should do, but what I am saying is this is a byproduct that you, if anyone wants to lose a weight, he or she can lose the weight also. So prayashchita karma is this fourth type of karma, a karma of a atonement, right? Making it correct. I'm getting getting rid of these doshas which has occurred by omitting something or by committing something in a puja, yajna. So these 4 types of karmas are there, and now we'll discuss from tomorrow that a attitude behind the action, etc. So these are karmas I have discussed first. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.